It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it's great to have you in the studio with us today. Al Cornell is back with us. He's a volunteer with the Yavapai County Search and Rescue Team, also a local survivalist, I'd say. Wouldn't you call yourself a local survivalist? You're all about it.
I'm about it, yeah.
Yeah, you like this survival stuff.
Never get
that's
enough
sure.
of it.
But Al, you usually come in twice a year. We have you come in during the spring and talk about summer safety tips for hiking and being outdoors, and then we have you come in the fall. And so here you are back. It's fall time. Weather's been really warm, and that can kind of give us a false sense of security when we're out and about. But like I told you this morning, I'm already wearing a jacket when I get up in the morning, just in case. You never know if you break down. You're going to want to be warm. So Al's in the studio today just to kind of keep us safe and better prepare us for the winter time. Last year I remember several stories where people had gone in their vehicles hunting, and a snowstorm came in and then got stuck. And I can remember between Yavapai County Sheriff's Office and then Coconino County as well, going out and having to find people out in this deep snow with their kids and families and stuff like that. So just to kind of have you come in and talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
So let me, before we get into the cold winter, how was your summer in terms of search and rescue?
It was active. Had a lot of call outs, a lot of searches, a lot of people still coming and not really being used to this area, no map, no compass, and getting off the trail and getting lost. Yeah.
You see a lot of locals or a lot of tourists?
I would say it's a little bit of both, a little bit of both. And we had a couple Alzheimer's searches this summer and things like that. Yeah. Okay,
so there's still stuff that us locals need to know about our own area.
Oh, yeah.
We think we know it really well, but once you get out there, and we're going to talk about, Al wants to talk about mental preparation. That's going to be a big part of today's show as well. So, but the colder weather is moving in. So what are some of the things we should be thinking about as the temperatures drop?
Well, first thing is to try to develop a mentality for this whole thing. Start getting prepared. Put together a few items and make sure when you go out on a hike you take a pack with you. We've had people, even with packs, leave them in the car because they were saying, well, I'm only going to go down that trail a mile, come back. And next thing you know, it's turned into a rescue because they didn't have the pack with them. So put together some items and then learn how to use them. That's the other thing. You can have some items in a pack, and if you haven't practiced with them, you're going to fail.
Should we jump right into the mental preparation thing?
Okay.
Should we do that? Because that's part of it right there,
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Go ahead and, lead into it, and I'll see what I've got for questions
like
for
I say, you can look at either your fears and say, all right, because I fear these different things, I need to carry this, and fire and shelter and these other things, or because you've heard someone talk about it, the same thing, well, I need to carry certain items with me. But there's a mental preparation that goes with it. I call it the two-pack rule. You got your backpack and you put a few things in it, and I have a few things on the table here, and you don't need to carry much. But if you don't know how to use them, if you carry a tarp with you to rig a shelter, but if you never rigged it, and then the time comes when you have to, you may find yourself failing.
Okay.
You need to start a fire, and it's wet weather. You can't get a match to start. You pull out your metal match. You don't know how to use it. You're going to fail. You're going to freeze to death. And so there's sort of a mental preparation that needs to go along with this. And that's something people tend to overlook.
Okay.
They go to Walmart, they buy the gear, and then they think they're safe. And then they get into the situation and they're not. It's sort of an interesting mental process. There's a stage where you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't know that you don't know it. And then you go into the woods and get lost, and then you suddenly realize, I don't know how to start a fire. I don't know how to do a shelter. Now all of a sudden, you're conscious of your incompetence. And what I try to do is take people from that area into being consciously competent.
Okay.
Learn how to build a fire, learn how to rig up a shelter. And we teach different groups to do this. We teach Friends of the Forest, and we teach the Boy Scouts, and we teach Search and Rescue and all that, how to do these skills so that when the time comes, you'll still get nervous, you'll still have anxiety, but now you have options. Now you're conscious of your competence of what you can do. And that competence gets better and better if you'll practice. if you'll go out and keep practicing now and then. I can remember setting up shelters 20 years ago, and it'd take me half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I would look at how I was doing it and say, you know, I can do this a little quicker if I do this or I do that. Now I can set up a shelter that'll keep me alive at temperatures below freezing in 15 minutes. And then, and that's a shelter with a little fire in front of it, and that's my, you know, my last resort, because your first line of defense is clothing, right off the bat.
Okay.
And clothing, shelter, and fire are all skills. They're all skills, and they have their subsets of skills inside of them. And you have to not only practice with some of this gear, you have to practice with the clothing. You have to practice setting up shelters. And then if you're out there a while and are in trouble, you have to practice signaling. Signaling is the third skill that really keeps you alive besides, you know, fire and shelter, then signaling. And so I have here a signal mirror and a whistle. Nice to have. The signal mirror especially, because if you can signal an aircraft, they will report your flashes. They can't come down and help you, but they'll report it to the authorities through air traffic control, and they'll have that forwarded to the county that in the area you're in, and they'll say, you know, we're getting flashes in this mountainside on aircraft, and someone must be in trouble over there.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So that's the idea, is to get people from being incompetent to being competent, and being aware that they're competent. It's really amazing to people come to a class, and then I show them something, and then you see their eyes open up. I didn't know I needed to know that, and now they realize I don't know how to do that. And then the next step is they learn right there. We teach them how to do that, teach them how to make a fire, or teach them how to rig up a shelter, and some of the options they can use to do that.
So practice. It's about practicing too, right? I mean, you really have to do practice. It's not like you just go out and buy the stuff and look at it and look at the picture on the back.
That's exactly right. And sort of the difference between knowledge, you see somebody on television make a fire with like a bow drill, and then you go and someone teaches you how to do it. I cannot tell you how many times people have come to me and said they've seen this method of making fire on TV, they've tried it, and it just doesn't work. It's just bullshit. Well, it does work, but somebody then has to kind of lead you through it a little bit, and then all of a sudden the light comes on, because it takes more sometimes than just having the knowledge. You need the experience with it. And then, of course, the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. And actually, you almost build up an intuitive nature about it. I find that the people that are best prepared physically, meaning with the gear, mentally, meaning with the training, they're the ones most aware of something going wrong. They're the ones that the antenna are up high, they see something's not quite right. You know, if in doubt, there is no doubt, they back off. Others that without that experience just keep plundering forward. And
I call it the what if factor, Al. The what if factor, yeah. We got to take our first break already.
Okay.
Okay, Al Cornell in studio today. He's a volunteer with the Yavapai County Search and Rescue Team. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back to Countywide. It is great to have you along. Al Cornell in studio today. We're just talking about safety and mental preparedness was what we've been talking about. Let's go back into the clothing part, because that seems to be one of the things that I hear about a lot when we do news stories, is that they find them in T-shirts, shorts, and flip-flops, even this time of year.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't head out until, say, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning for your walk, it is pretty nice out. I mean, right now we're still in the 80s in the Verde Valley, 70s up in the Flagstaff area, so it can be misleading.
What is it at night?
Exactly. And that's why I wear a coat, because I know that at the time I'm on the road in the morning, it's cold. So if I get stuck out there, I'm going to be cold.
Two real important points to remember. One is the most dangerous activity in our forest is the day hike, because of just that. The cavalier attitude toward dress, the feeling that I'll go out at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'll be back by 6 o'clock, and that doesn't work. Something went wrong. Well, the cavalier attitude, and then not being prepared with the clothing. And I brought some stuff here with me to talk about it, just because it is such an important issue. Right off the bat, you lose most of your, well, the other point I was going to make is, when does hypothermia occur? The average death from hypothermia occurs between 40 and 50 degrees.
See, that surprised me the first time you told me that.
Down there in 20 or 30 degrees, 40 to 50. And then the activity most dangerous is the day hike. So we're just talking about, I call hypothermia deaths the death of the unprepared, because they occur in that range. We're not rescuing people at 20 or 10 degrees that are having hypothermia. It's 40, 50 degrees. 50% of your body heat is lost right here, head and neck.
Okay.
So if you just carry a scarf and a little woolly cap in your pack, you have done tremendous effort towards saving your life.
Two pretty simple things,
to the point where the Air Force did a test, and they put a room full of people with equal body mass indexes on both sides, and they had one group go down to their underwear and just wear a scarf and a cap. The other group could wear their full uniform but no hat or scarf, and they put them under cold duress. And the group with the scarf and the hat could last longer than the group in uniform.
No kidding.
Yeah. They lost that, you lose that much heat.
Oh, wow.
And as the temperature drops, it's not constant. The loss up here increases. I think around 5 degrees Fahrenheit, the loss up here is 75 to 80% now, not 50%. So a scarf and a woolly cap, tremendous start. Tremendous start.
Okay. I suppose your body's pushing the heat to your brain. Keep the brain as active as
very
possible,
good point. And it's not supposed, of your body weight, total body weight, your brain probably represents 5% or less of your total body weight.
Okay.
But it takes over 20% of the blood supply.
Okay. Okay.
So you get a lot of blood up through the carotid artery into the brain, and a lot of heat loss.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And this stops it.
Cover your head and your neck. Okay.
Yeah. The other is, you like to have a couple layers on. I say a couple layers because you can wear a wool sweater like this, and that'll keep you warm. It can get wet and still retain heat, probably up to 60% of the heat.
Okay.
Heat retention.
So wool, though, that's the key there.
But I like to go with synthetics.
Okay.
This is merino wool, which is really more like polyester, and I have a polyester shirt here, and these are very thin. This may trap heat with the fibers. These two together will trap heat with fibers, and then they also will isolate heat between the layers.
Okay.
And airspace is the best insulator.
Okay.
The next one in line is polypropylene. But if you can put a nice wicking layer to trap heat, and then another looser layer, thin layer out that's loose, you'll isolate body heat that comes out of the wicking layer and then you're isolating that, and you have another layer of protection. And then the last layer.
Let me ask you about this real quick.
Is a barrier.
If I get sweaty though, if I start to get really sweaty and hot in that, and I'm lost out there, what should I be doing?
Good question. Very good question. That's why clothing is also a skill.
Okay.
It's a skill. When you start to hike, if you start to feel perspiration, you start delayering.
Okay.
You take off the barrier. If it's raining, you take off a layer or two and put the barrier back on.
Okay.
But you don't let your body get wet.
All right.
And on searches, your best performance is when you're feeling cool, almost uncomfortably cold. Do not let yourself get visibly wet inside.
Okay.
And then when you stop, relayer and stay warm.
Okay.
When you're not moving, stay warm. When you start to move again, start delayering. And it is a skill. It is a skill, and you have to be thinking about it as you're doing it.
You really have to pay attention to what's going on with
That's
your body.
right.
Okay.
I was on a search last year, and we were moving fast. I didn't stop to delayer, and then when finally, and we'd been out there 3 or 4 hours, finally stopped, and we were getting ready to arrange a landing zone for a helicopter, I just almost went into hypothermia because I was soaking wet when we stopped. Mm-hmm. I wasn't that wet as we were going on, but probably did build up some sweat. But I didn't stop and take the time to delayer, take the time to take my shirt off and another layer and just stick it in my pack.
Okay.
And I was really cold that night. That was a bad night, and that was again one of those wake-up calls where you teach it and then you violate your own rule.
Sure.
And that's what I did, and that was a really wake-up call for me. And some other people with me that night said the same thing. They had done the same thing. We were so consumed by the compassion of rescuing this person that that you can't let those feelings get out of control. And compassion is one of them. Is you're so concerned to rescue that child or that young lady that you don't stop and think, well, it's going to work a lot better if I do things right.
Well, it's the same thing they say in a plane.
Fast.
If that oxygen mask drop, mom, put yours on first and then put your kids on first. Because if you're out of commission, you're no good for anybody else. So it's sort of that effect right there. Yeah. Gloves, I see that. Gloves, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like to wear thin, long underwear, or thin, long, what do you call it?
Long johns?
Long johns on my legs in the winter. That's a good one. The other is socks. Because once you've got the head and neck protected, the next two areas of concern are hands and feet. Hands and feet. In the wintertime, I wear 2-layer wool socks.
Okay.
All the time, day and night. And you say, well, where do you put them? I buy shoes that are 2 sizes too large.
Okay.
I have a size 11 foot, I buy size 13 shoes.
Okay.
Never buy a shoe smaller than a 13. I'll buy a 13 and a half, I might even buy a 14 if 2 layers of socks feel fine in there. But if you have 2 layers of wool socks in the wintertime, you're invincible on your feet. Absolutely invincible. Even if your feet get wet. Even if your feet get wet, the wool will retain heat in your feet.
Okay. All right. In 30 seconds, what kind of shoes should we wear in the wintertime? As quick as you can tell me. Boots?
If you're going to be and know you're going to be in wet snow, yeah, you need to get a boot that will keep a dry snow is not a problem. You get up in a dry snow country, you could literally walk around in three sets of wool socks and nothing else, and it wouldn't hurt your feet at all.
I'll be darned.
But in wet snow, you need sorels or something like that because to keep that wetness off.
Okay.
But in an emergency, my feet have gotten wet on searches. 2 or 3 layers of wool socks, and my feet, they may get wet, but they don't get cold.
Okay. All right. Let's take another break already.
Okay.
Al Cornell in studio today. We're just talking about some safety for the winter time, the fall time, so stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up 1 finger if you're a man. Women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60. 2 over 50. 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now. So 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
If you don't fix them, sparks from dragging tow chains could cause a wildfire, and that could be scary.
Hi, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a couple minutes left in the program. Al wants to go over just a few things you should have in your pocket or just your pack or in your vehicle just through the winter months to just survive
Just
if things go bad.
Basic stuff.
Nobody tells us when something's going to go bad.
Dress properly first. Okay.
Dress.
And have a couple extra layers if you're going to be out there in the daytime at 70 degrees and it's going to be 40 at night or 30 at night. Some of these layers you'd wear in the cold or at night, put them in your pack.
Okay.
Carry a small tarp. You can rig up, this is a 5x8 tarp and can be rigged up very quickly. Something to keep you sheltered in bad weather, snow, rain, stuff like that, wind, good to have. Trash bags. Oh, trash bags are wonderful. You can use them for cover your body if you have to. Fill them with leaves or green pine needles at night to sleep on top of. Inside your shelter, it keeps you off a cold ground. Wonderful. These emergency space blankets, you wrap up in these also. And that'll do a great deal to keep you alive. And then a good knife, a couple lighters. You need a flashlight. What's really embarrassing to be out there at night and then realize you can't see anything. So, and the flashlight doesn't have to be very big. It can be as small as that. There's a different style. It's a little thinner. And then a good piece of cord. A good cord and a good knife. Did I throw the knife in there?
Yeah. You threw the knife in already.
A good knife and a good cord. And carry extra lighters.
Okay.
You can carry waterproof matches and other things and food bars and all, but basically to keep yourself alive, carry stuff that the first priority is thermal regulation. Protect your body.
Okay. Tell somebody where you're going, when you're going to be back.
All the deadly sins.
Yeah, those types of things too. We've only got like 30 seconds left, but yeah, make sure you tell somebody where you go, when you're going to be back. Make sure your cell phone's charged up. Don't use it for the GPS because the battery will run low.
Know the weather.
Know the weather.
Yeah.
Definitely know the weather. Yeah, we're trying to throw in as many things as we can.
Bring some gear, and know your limitations.
Know your limitations and stay put. Once you know you're lost, stay put. Don't move around because Al's had to chase people through the woods and he doesn't like doing that. Al does do survival courses. And some of the members of the Search and Rescue can do survival courses. It's for groups, though, for groups. So if you're part of a group...
be glad to come and give a presentation, 3 or 4 hours on, and we do this, and we do this, and we let them practice making fire and practice putting up a shelter. And after 4 hours, they've gone from being aware that they don't know how to do it to being aware now that they can do it. And that's the big step.
That's that whole mental preparation. So if you want to get a hold of Al, the number is 204-2976, 204-2976. Al, thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
May you have a slow winter in searches this year.
I hope this helps.
I do too. I hope we do. But we'll have you back next spring to do it again and talk about, the summer season. So that's today's Countywide. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you again next time.